right, game number 2 here between Gabriel Nassif and Matt Sperling. As we come in, Matt Sperling finds himself up a game. Not surprised to see these two duking it out here for the 2-1. If they were been in the finals, I wouldn't have been surprised either. These are two of the strongest archetypes, blue-black versus blue-white, and they find themselves, against each other here, trying to see who can pick up that 2-1 to end the draft.
It looks like we have a mulligan here from Nassif, down a game.
Yikes.
Yeah, curious to see what he tosses back.
Just one of the Cathars, it looks like.
Yeah.
It's a perfectly fine hand.
Yep.
It's got
Could be
2,
the
3,
Castaway.
4. Perhaps valuing just going 3-drop, 4-drop, 4-drop higher than the curve out.
Yeah. Maybe he wants to be a bit more proactive and he doesn't see himself losing his Covetous Castaway, because Covetous Castaway is pretty underwhelming if your opponent's kind of playing a more controlling deck.
Yeah, and take a look at the hand here from Sperling. This makes Covetous Castaway look horrendous. Double Larder Zombie, Scob Wrangler, even the Hobbling Zombie just tacks into it.
Yeah. Larder Zombie, kind of a late riser too, right?
Mm-hmm.
It's the type of creature, when you first saw it, you're just like, okay, well, I mean, obviously I'm not going to put this in my deck, right? It's a 1-mana, 1/3 defender, but given how the it's really been impressive because of just how valuable it is to be able to just put those disturb cards into your graveyard, and even its body. Just 1-drops are good in this format, and that really hasn't been the case in the past in Limited.
That's right. There's a bunch of good 1-drops in this set, and they all see extensive play. We saw some in the last round as well. Here comes Hobbling Zombie after the Scob Wrangler. Wow, what a 1-2-3 here from Matt Sperling. Now he has the options on keeping attackers back using Scob Wrangler or activating Larder Zombie to start manipulating the top of his library. What a beautiful spot to be in.
Yeah, definitely. And at this point, I imagine Sperling is going to be more interested in just kind of sculpting his hand. Not a whole lot of damage coming in here from Nassif's side.
Interestingly, Covetous Castaway coming in as well for Nassif. That's an easy block with the Hobbling Zombie, but then you kind of unlock the Disturb side of it, and it may be better just to take the 1 damage rather than mess with it. And look at this.
Wow.
Even the Morning Patrol's going to get in. Matt wants to keep that Larder Zombie on the battlefield.
Yeah, I would have guessed that Matt might have been interested in just blocking with the Larder Zombie there. If Nassif has a combat trick, you're okay with that, right? You have the backup Larder Zombie in your hand.
That's right. You also get an activation before it goes away. Clarion Cathars hits the battlefield on the follow-up here for Nassif, but the hammer comes down, Larder Zombie number 2. And this is also probably part of the reason why is that now Matt can leave up Defenestrate, and now we'll see if Nassif wants to throw a bluff attack in there, because now Sperling can punish him for it.
Yeah. And with that Vivisection in Matt's hand, now I think he would be pretty happy to trade that Hobbling Zombie here, probably for the Cathars, and then cash in that zombie for 3 cards.
Interesting, the other Larder Zombie doesn't block the Covetous Castaway. Interestingly, Nassif actually found his combat trick now with Blessed Defiance.
Yeah.
And he's going to use it on the Morning Patrol, and this is tempting for Matt. It does have Disturb, so it's not, a complete blowout, but getting a 2-for-1 on board is a big tempo swing.
Oh, yeah.
And works well in his favor. So he's going to go for Defenestrate to kind of complete the blowout as Morning Patrol hits the graveyard.
Yeah, and this sets Nassif back so much, right?
Yeah.
Because now, I mean, he was expecting a flyer, and now he just has these ground creatures. These are 2/3s that can't even attack through the Larder Zombie. So Sperling can afford to just take the turn off here. Normally in Limited, people have talked about how Vivisection is just not quite as good because people are putting so much pressure on the board. But right now, this is the perfect opportunity here.
Wouldn't be surprised to see him run it out. The Scob Wrangler sitting over there is looking very good as well. Blue-white doesn't have very many ways to take care of a Scob Wrangler. It's one of the weaknesses. And, if a big flyer shows up or something like that, it could be a major problem.
Yeah, and that is kind of typically how these blue-white decks have been kind of beating on the Dimir decks in the format. It's just going over the top, right? You know,
That's right.
the blue black decks can kind of grind you, go to the late game because they have cards like the Larder Zombie, but they do have difficulty with flyers. And the blue white Disturb deck is just never short of finding ways to kind of put flyers into play.
Little bit unlucky there for Sperling that he didn't have black mana left over for Rotten Reunion, as it's given Gabriel Nassif the opening to use his Morning Patrol in the graveyard for its disturb cost. There was really just that window because Sperling probably would have nabbed it if he had black mana instead of blue left over after the Vivisection.
Yeah, but still a great turn here from Sperling. Finding that land means he can double spell this turn if he wants to.
Yeah, I think he does. That gives him the 6th creature on board, 2 from the Falcon Abomination and then the Shady Traveler. So now he has double activation on whichever one he wants from Scarbwrangler and Larder Zombie.
Yeah, and I mean, Matt's at a healthy 16 life. He's going to be able to activate Larder Zombie every turn while also tapping down that flyer. And then take a look at his hand too, right? He's got a Dreadhound, which is a fantastic card in this spot, and Rotten Reunion, where if you just make 2 tokens in conjunction with that Dreadhound, that's another tap or another activation from that Larder Zombie.
Paul, do I detect some jealousy here? Are you a little envious of that seat?
I mean, he's just doing everything that I want to be doing in this format, so yes, very jealous.
It does look good. And he's got some heavy hitters to follow up. Another Falcon Abomination alongside Rotten Reunion, pretty good. But he could also go for Dreadhound if he'd like and really start to slam the door. Dreadhound, an interesting one here. I think that Matt wants to try to play it on a turn when he also has Rotten Reunion, so he doesn't just leave the door open for that. But otherwise, he's going to start chipping in here. Paul gets in for 2 with the Falcon Abomination, and this one's really falling away from Gabriel Nassif.
Oh, and you do not want to see that.
Wow, this is for
if you're a
Scry?
Nassif fan. Yeah.
Oh, that's brutal. Fading Hope on a Decay Zombie that doesn't actually take Sperling off of being able to activate twice. Again, either the Wrangler or the Larder Zombie. That was for Scry. I mean, this is desperation now for Nassif.
Yeah, I mean, the important number here is, of course, having multiples of 3 creatures in play with those cards. But, I mean, Nassif just can't find a way to push through damage at this point. And Matt just just getting further and further ahead in terms of card quality here, as he's allowed to basically, scry every single turn.
It's getting worse as well. There's an Eaten Alive off the top of the library now for Sperling. Excellent against, well, it's just an excellent card, but particularly good against these Disturb decks since it exiles and make sure that whatever you get is gone for good. And now Dreadhound hits the battlefield. He even hit a couple of triggers off of that. And this is going to be really, really difficult for Nassif to come back from. In fact,
I think it's
he's
over.
throwing the good game at Sperling and scooping him up. Matt Sperling's going to finish 2-1 with blue-black from his table. And I got to say, he's got to be really happy with that, Paul.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, Matt looks like he just kind of has exactly the deck that you're looking for going in. Although it might be a little bit of a bittersweet victory because, of course, Matt Sperling was on the same testing team as Gabriel Nassif. So, there were 4 of them in that team, so you're inevitably going to run into each other. But, of course, all these players, I'm sure, wanted to be well-positioned going into the standard portion because they've submitted a very spicy deck for that port.